Tim and Tom, I know that you also wrote this film. How much are you like your own characters, and are there certain qualities that actually fit the other person better?
This is a great question. I'd like to distance myself publicly from my character. My character's an incredibly annoying buffoon. But having said that,
No, come on.
well, no, he definitely has his qualities. No, I think I guess I do sort of talk this. My guy is like a sort of tap which can't switch off, and I think I struggle slightly to switch mine off in real life, but not quite as bad as his. It's not mine's not quite as terminal a switched on tap. Um, but no, I think we sort of talk a fair amount of nonsense. Me and Tom and our friends. There is an element that you if you watched us for an hour and then watched the film, you could definitely say there's not as much distance as you'd like between me and Charles. But yeah, in terms of the Charles as a whole character, I love him because he does have that, but then he's a sort of fully formed human being in terms of he's got a past, he's got some stuff he's trying to deal with, and I think gradually, I think Herb writes him off, and I think an audience member might write him off in the first 10 minutes or underestimate exactly what he can bring to the table. That doesn't answer your question per se, but that's my experience of playing him.